All right, Jeff, this past weekend, UFC 183 saw a couple of guys in the main event fail their drug test. You had Anderson Silva failed a pre-fight PED test, testing positive for steroids, and then Nick Diaz failed a post-fight drug test, testing positive for marijuana. Just your thoughts on overall, you know, you had Jon Jones last month, all this stuff going on in MMA right now. I mean, it goes on boxing too as well, but not usually with this top-name fighters. Just thoughts on what's been going down.
Well, I mean, to me, I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, the sport is corrupt. You know, and I mean, not on, you know, on the highest level. When you let a guy, you know, get away with doing cocaine, I don't care at any time, and, you know, any time he does it, I don't care if it's before, it's after, or a certain period or anything. I mean, when you let a guy, you know, go in the ring, you know, and knowing that, you know, he had cocaine in his system, you know, who's to say that he didn't have it in his system that night or anything like that? I mean, I don't care about the pre-stuff and this and that and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's bad. It's just bad. It's just bad all the way around.
And then what about Silva? You know, he tested positive before the fight for steroids. If they knew beforehand, what do you think about them allowing him to compete? I
mean, it just goes to show that it's a sport in which if these guys have a name, they can get away with anything. You know, and that's bad. And that's bad for... It's bad for any sport, you know. I mean, it's bad for football, it's bad for boxing, it's bad for UFC. It's bad for any sport.
Well, the failed drug tests are nothing new. It's been happening forever in boxing and MMA. But rarely have we seen this many big names. I mean, Anderson Silva and Jon Jones are, I mean, right at the top of the, you know, the food chain there. How does that, you know, hurt the integrity of the UFC going forward, trying to sell fights when fans have seen their last two guys in the main events, you know, have failed drug tests?
Well, I mean, I think that, to be honest, I think some fans don't care because, you know, some fans just want, you know, it to be a good fight and they don't care, you know, who's doing what. But at the end of the day, it is a sport, and I mean, the sport should have, you know, certain type of rules, certain type of stipulations that prevent that. But, and I mean, and I'm not talking about some pre-stuff and this, that, because I mean, the thing is that if a person is doing that, that person needs help. You know, they need help. They need some type of help, you know, to rectify what's going on.
Do you think these drug test failures is going to mean for the UFC in the popularity, if anything?
You know, I feel like now the fans, they're gonna be like, they don't want to see UFC because you guys is cheating. You know, it's sad. You know, my favorite stars in the UFC, they getting drug tested and they failing. You know, so it's a sad thing to see.
As a boxer, are you kind of glad in a way? Maybe that'll pull a little bit of the popularity away, or do you hate to see that anyone, you know, any fellow
me personally,
combat athletes?
Me personally, I don't think UFC gonna ever get popular in boxing. You know, boxing's been around for so long, you know. But
you think it's more?
I'm a UFC fan, so you know, I like to see, you know, I like to see them. So I wish they do it the right way.
As a top-level athlete yourself, what are your thoughts on what's going on with UFC and their drug failures right now?
First of all, you know, you can't ever be okay and look the other way with those kinds of failing, you know, drug tests. You can't condone any of that kind of stuff. I say that, and I also say the pressure that these guys sometimes feel that they face is that they have to perform at a certain level, or, you know, they have to look a certain way, or they have to be a certain, you know, have a certain outcome. And given that, they can take the shortcuts. Listen, man, that's not okay. It's not okay to take the drug. It's not okay to fight with the drug. It's not okay to have those, to cheat. You know, those things are just disgusting for the sport. Especially, not that there's ever okay when to do it, but especially at this level. I mean, everyone wants to see Anderson come back. Everybody wants to see him fight, you know, Diaz, and everybody wants to see, you know, what's going to happen to him after the injury and whatnot. And it should have been a great fight. But, you know, some of these guys sometimes forget about really what the fans really want, and forget about, you know, the ethics and the moral makeup of the game, and that's where it comes all crashing down. I mean, look at it now. He can never be taken seriously again. He can never be taken. You know, he can never be respected again. It's bad. It's ugly.
As far as the popularity goes.
I think it's a disgrace. I think if UFC doesn't do something about it, you know, what are they saying to kids? Go ahead, do drugs, smoke pot, do steroids, take cocaine. They need to take immediate action. I believe this is Diaz's second offense. Steroids and cocaine on 2 main events, horrible. They need to take immediate action, and if they don't, they're giving a really, really bad example to all the high school wrestlers, everybody that's coming out of, you know, all the youth. They need to take immediate action.
And as far as the popularity of the sport goes, do you think that's going to damage them at all? Having Jon Jones and Anderson Silva obviously being 2 of the biggest names in all of MMA, having failed tests recently?
No, it's not. It's just going to, if anything, if they don't do something about it, it's just going to tell kids drugs are cool. So it's not, I don't think it's going to affect the popularity, because people are stupid.
You ever been in a fight on both these guys? Anderson Silva was, you know, failed to test for steroids. Nick Diaz failed his test for marijuana. You ever fought somebody, you know, your 12 fights in your career that you suspected that may have been on something, and how did that affect, if at all, your fight?
Never really. Maybe when I fought in Virgin Islands and there was no athletic conditioning, no testing. Yeah, maybe the guy could have taken something before because I hit him with some pretty brutal shots and he was still standing. But never really.
Make it look bad. It make it look like they, you know, that they shouldn't be where they at. They shouldn't be top athletes, you know. Reason being because they make it a disgrace in the sport by doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, making it look bad, by making themselves look bad.
For years, a lot of people said the UFC was going to pass boxing in popularity, but with, you know, these 2 big name fighters and then Jon Jones recently failing for cocaine, do you think that damages the UFC, and does that help boxing? You know,
I mean,
maybe
it don't damage it. I mean, because that one person not gonna make a difference. It's probably another kid out there training just as hard that's gonna be better than them. So, I mean, the odds are still the same.
Do you think something needs to be done to ensure that people that fail drug tests before they fight are not allowed to compete? Like Jones failed the cocaine test before the fight, and Silva was tested on January 9th.
Well, I don't know how they should be penalized. I just feel like...
how would you feel going in there knowing a guy that already got busted for PEDs, but he was allowed to fight you?
And we're just gonna have to fight. I took the fight. You know, I knew what I signed up for.
I mean, you know, performance-enhancing drugs have been around for, you know, years, even longer than I've been born. You know, they've been in sports for a long, long time. You know, you got those, you know, a lot of those high-level athletes. I'm pretty sure they use, you know, something. You know, so, you know, it's just the epidemic in sports, and it needs to be, you know, figured out somehow, some way.
UFC's been having some issues with popularity, maybe fading here lately. How do you think something like this is going to affect them, having such high-profile athletes failing drug tests?
I mean, you know, you still got a guy like Jon Jones that just got busted for cocaine. It doesn't matter. They're still gonna tune in and watch. You know, even though Anderson Silva got busted for steroids, other guy got busted for marijuana, they're still gonna tune in and watch it. It doesn't matter, especially at this point when you got those type of guys at that high level. People are still gonna watch the fight, so it don't really matter. You know.
What do you think about what they're saying to the fans when they already knew Jon Jones failed the test, let him fight anyway? Anderson Silva got tested on January 9th. Whether or not, I don't know if they knew yet. They're still trying to figure that out. They knew beforehand. But what are they telling their fans to let people that have already failed the drug test compete?
Well, I mean, I seen reports that they said they knew Anderson had failed the test before the fight, and that's absolutely crazy. You know, if you got a guy that's fight on steroids, you know he's on steroids before a fight, you still let him compete. You know, you got guys, you know, lives in danger in these sports. It's a physical sport. Even with Jon Jones taking cocaine, you know, that right there is a performance enhancer itself. You know, it does something to you. It's a drug, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, them knowing that these guys are failing these tests and they still allow them to compete is crazy, you know.
An issue now.
Well, you know what? The sport it takes from the sport. You know, if you go be the best, not just in boxing or MMA or any sport or anything, why cheat? You know, you can't accomplish what you need to accomplish if you need a supplement. Cheating, steroids. They need to fix it, man. Especially these guys being the main face of the sport, you know, UFC. They need to get that shit together.
That's what I say. You've had a lot of low-level people fail in the past, but with Jon Jones and Anderson Silva being two of the, you know, I don't know, 3 biggest names in the sport, how big is it that they're failing as opposed to some people you may not have heard of?
Huge. I mean, absolutely huge. You have all these kids, you know, that's following UFC, you know, look up to them, and they're like, oh, you know, the champ did it, you know, it is what it is. It's not cool. Not cool at all. Real question is, who was the last person that failed their test that was an elite fighter?
Yeah, well, you said you had Anderson, and the thing was that test was taken January 9th, so the UFC probably knew about that going in and still let him fight.
And that's bad, because they knew about it, but because of his name, we're going to let it go ahead and go? No. So now you're making him think that it's okay, and tell him no, because you are who you are, we'll go ahead and give you a pass, and we'll deal with it later. That's
what I'm saying Jon Jones got, you know, because he got busted for cocaine for staying away because it was out of camp or whatever, that it doesn't count, so he actually got no punishment at all for it.
No. This is a lifestyle, okay? In camp, out of camp, in the ring, out of the ring. This is 24/7. It's a lifestyle.